Hello, I'm Emer Coleman and I'm Deputy Director for Digital Engagement with Government Digital Services in the UK. And I was recently asked to address the Digital Ireland Forum on policies for technology and innovation. And my background largely is in government, so much of this presentation will speak to that space. But I think one of the things that's very important in fostering innovation is the notion of adaptability in an age of rapid change. And what you're looking at there is a slide from a game which was created in 2002 called Game Never Ending, which built a very credible online presence, but the founders were finding it very difficult to monetize. And so in 2003, they simply added a photo sharing app, which became one of the most successful photo sharing sites globally. And the founders of Game Never Ending have often said that had they started in 2002 with an idea like Flickr, they wouldn't have even bothered, because at the time smartphones were not as ubiquitous, blogging hadn't reached the tipping point where people needed to share photographs. So it's a certain bit about serendipity, I think, and the need to understand that we need to adapt and adapt quickly. And similarly, the photograph you're looking here is of Michael Acton-Smith, who's the CEO of Mind Candy, a very successful startup based in Shoreditch here in London. And Michael raised over $10 million in venture capital to build his game Perplex City. And after a number of years, and by the time he'd actually spent $9 million and realised he was never going to be able to monetize it in the way that he needed to, he developed the idea of Moshi Monsters, which has become one of the most successful sites for children across the globe. 1 in 3 children under 7 in the UK subscribe to Moshi Monsters. And so it's an example really of why we need to fail and fail fast. And of course in government, failure is not an option. And I think that's one of the problems for us. I think we have to understand that in government, and I think in big business too, we need to introduce much more agile thinking, and we need to iterate and learn from our mistakes and not from our success. And so what does that look like in the role of digital in public sector reform, for example? And what you're looking at is the front page of Gov UK, which is in beta at the moment and is the proposed single domain for all government information. And our starting point in everything we do in government digital service is putting the user first. So the concept of trust, users and delivery are really core to what we do. And what that looks like to us is being very open to hearing what people have to say, iterating on the basis of user feedback, and being transparent about our work. And we do this by using and engaging with social media. What you're looking at is a photograph of one of our developers in GDS called Jordan Hatch, who's 17, who was recently presenting internally. And I tweeted out Jordan Hatch, our 17-year-old at GDS, presenting on his own and very eloquently. Similarly, as a photograph of my team who are preparing a comms and engagement strategy and using lots of post-it notes, but it's really to try and give a feel for what working in GDS is like and how we approach things, and to share that with the broader community, both in government and outside. Here is a photograph of Mike Bracken, who's the Executive Director of Government Digital Services, leading the Digital by Default agenda in the UK, addressing an event called UK GovCamp, which is an annual event which brings together technologists, people working in government, some of them are public officials, some of them are not, to have discussions about how we might improve the public realm using technology and working together. So it's an example here really of trying to be part of a community and to collaborate with that community and not trying to do everything ourselves. Similarly, all of the code is open source that we have developed, the beta Gov UK, and it's shared on GitHub, so it can be reused and repurposed by anybody who chooses to do that. And I think that comes to the second point, really, is about changing this command and control model. So we're very much informed by the notion of your status or your value, your respect being determined by what you give away and not by what you control. So I think that's an important principle for innovation. In the government space, clearly, we need to collaborate to compete. So we can't try and do everything ourselves, and we can't anyway. In my previous role in the London Data Store, I was responsible for the release of open data into the public domain. And I think government has a very strong role to play here in terms of developing SMEs. So we don't need to be developing apps, and that's not the role of government, I would argue. I think what government needs to do is to bring its digital assets to the table and to allow third-party developers to build their businesses from that. And I think it's a really important initiative for government to continue to do. And I think it would be great if the Irish government were doing that and doing that at a rapid pace. Um, and what's interesting when you look at things like open data, it does generate unlikely bedfellows, such as civil servants who are also software developers, and also highly creative. And what you're looking at is a set of stickers which our designer Ben Terrett issued, which is not the norm for the civil service, I think. And that brings me to the point about what do we need really for innovation to flourish. And if I was looking at that in an Irish context, or indeed anywhere, I would say we need to be open, it needs to be fast, and it needs to be free. And that openness is about transparency, yes, in terms of releasing data, but also about surfacing how we work. We need to have infrastructure, and I know in Ireland that's a key issue as well in terms of speed and connectivity, and things need to be free. So certainly if we are bringing our digital assets to the table as a state, then we need to make them free for commercial reuse. And I think one of the things I've been very influenced by in my career is a book by Daniel H. Pink called A Whole New Mind, which was published as far back as 2005. But he describes the kind of 6 values that he feels are important for us to succeed in the future. Design, story, symphony, empathy, meaning, and play. So it's important for us, for example, in our lives that things look beautiful, but they have some meaning. And empathy is very important, I believe, for us, especially in a government space, because we need to listen to people and we need to understand where they're coming from. And so we need to be able to engage with them in terms of social media, for example, so we can have a better sense of what's happening in the social world. And finally, I would say, I think we really all need to keep focused on the fact that it's about them, it's not about us. There was a very interesting article called We the Web Kids, written by a Polish poet born in 1981, where he sets out what the generation of digital natives really believe about the web, how they use it, and how they have grown up with it and how they've grown up in it. And these are not young people who are, they're not like us. We haven't had to adapt to this. It isn't a virtual space they hang out. They literally are the internet. And how they think and what they believe and what influences them are different to the things that may have influenced us. And he makes the point that, for example, for We the Web Kids, all they need to do is to get the concept. They don't need to fill in all the facts because they can find them at a click of a button. They know where to filter those facts, they know where to find accurate facts, and they can put that picture together for themselves. So we are generationally removed, I think, from their requirements, and I think it is behoven on us to get to grips with what they need and to be able to provide and design services that will be fit for purpose for the future.